All right, we're back here on the Chase Holmes podcast, taping this on a Monday afternoon. Old friend Philip Jones returns to the program. Coach Jones, how is it? How's it going, man?
Chase, doing great. Doing great. Having a busy summer as usual,
Mm-hmm.
but enjoyable. But we've got a big year ahead and a lot of excitement around the program. So working hard to make sure we're doing the best we can for our players.
What's been different about this summer than last summer for you?
Well, not a whole lot different in terms of what we're doing and how we prepare. We prepare just about the same way every time, but just there's a buzz around this team. Dylan's committed last week and is going to
Mm-hmm.
Bama, so everybody's excited about that. We've got a big schedule this year with it's going to be a battle week in and week out, and we're headed out to Vegas to play Bishop Gorman. So they're just we got a few other things we'll reveal a little bit later when we're allowed to reveal them, but it's just right now it's just seems to be that kind of time of year where the buzz is starting to circulate and guys are getting excited about about being just about what's to come. So I guess that the sort of buzz may be a little bit different this year.
How did the Bishop Gorman thing come up? Was it just like, hey, Chase is a friend of mine. He's a Tennessee guy. Let me get a up close look at Will Stallings, and I'll report back on
Yes,
how he's
exactly.
going to be for us. Was that it?
That's exactly right. Yeah, it was all
Mm-hmm.
because of you. That's what I heard.
Mm-hmm.
No, we had a good year last year and have a good number of returning players. So
Mm-hmm.
just it was a year in Georgia where just recycle. Excuse me, we had to sort of reschedule our non-region schedule, and so we had to come
Mm-hmm.
up with 5 non-region games. And because of the year we had last year, and because some good players coming back, it was just hard to find games, to be honest with you. And so we did a good bit of calling around, and the opportunity kind of fell in our lap through our Gwinnett County athletic director. I think Gorman also has a hard time getting games, and so
Hmm.
they ended up calling around to some of maybe the more talent rich areas of the country, seeing if anybody was interested in playing, and the date worked out, and they were interested in playing, and we were too, and it just kind of fell in our lap. So it's a pretty cool opportunity. We're very excited about it.
Is that a big thing for kids? Do they love the idea, like the opportunity to go play somewhere else where they
Oh
never
heck
thought
yeah,
they would play? Yeah.
heck yeah, they're eating it up, and that's one of the things, logistically and financially, it's a
Mm.
bear to make a trip like this, especially for one game when some people are like, you could get on a school bus and drive 10 minutes down the road
Mm.
to play somebody, and it would be the same non-region game as you would have
Right.
going out to Las Vegas. But I don't really see it that way. I see it as an opportunity of a lifetime for our kids.
Mm.
Honestly, it's an opportunity of a lifetime for me and our
Yeah.
coaching staff. I mean, who else can say they did something like this and had the opportunity to play in a game like this? And our players will remember for the rest of their lives. Um, and quite frankly, I'm always looking for ways to elevate our program and elevate our players to a platform where, they can be seen and be recognized, and this is one of those opportunities. And it was just too cool not to pass up. You know, and it's in Vegas. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not like it's not like we're going to Boise, Idaho, or something. I mean, we're going to Vegas. So there's that appeal to it too. So it's
Have
gonna
you
be a
been?
blast. Never been.
Really?
I have never been.
Okay.
No. So we're gonna try to stay. What I tell it's going to be a blast. I think it's my job to chaperone my coaches,
Oh, that's a good get.
and
That's a
we're
good
going to
thing.
have. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look after some of my coaches while we're there,
Yeah.
and I think that the chaperones we take will be responsible for the players. But if I can just
Yeah.
keep our coaches in line while we're there, I'll consider that a job well done.
Are you gonna gamble at all? Have you already thought about it?
No, 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 not this job. I'm not a big gambler. I've been one
Yeah.
time. I went to Biloxi one time for a friend's bachelor weekend, and
Mm.
I did the thing where like, okay, $100. You
Mm.
know, when it's gone, it's gone, and that's what I
Right.
did. I'm no fun. I'm no
Did
fun.
you
I'm
win?
not much of a.
Did you come out on top?
I went up a little bit, and then I went
Okay.
back down, and then I ended up at 0, and I said, okay, I'm done. That's it.
There you go. How long did that
So
take? Was that like a 45-minute
I was
situation?
excited. After
Yeah.
about an hour or two, I was up, and then about an hour later, I mean, I got a little too cocky. I didn't know how the whole thing works. So
Yeah.
about an hour later, I was back down. I was like, all right, find something else to do.
There you go. Um, how long did you know about where Dylan was going to go? Did he tell you a while back? Did you always know that he was going to end up at Bama?
I knew 3 days before. That's it.
Okay.
So I knew 3 days. He had, alma mater, South Carolina, and that was the leader for him for, I think, a good
Mm-hmm.
majority of the process. He was looking for somewhere where he could play football and baseball. That was his priority, probably priority number one, is where he could do both. Um, and so, um, so that was priority number one. And then, but he is really, there's a lot of football, baseball kids that, once they see those dollar signs in their, from the major league scouts, they start
Yeah.
to think more like baseball. But Dylan's really not that way. I mean, I think he loves football just as much, and so was excited about going to play college football and baseball, and wants the full experience. And quite frankly, with NIL, he could, if you're the starting quarterback at Alabama, you probably make more money than you do as a single A minor league baseball player. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I think he might.
So he feels pretty good about that. And then, but anyway, it just, it started out at 5, and, the further he went into the process, I mean, once Alabama got there, usually who Nick wants, Nick gets, and Nick
Mm-hmm.
really wanted Dylan. I mean, it
Hmm.
was
Why do you think that
once
is?
they, I mean, he's a kid that, I mean, I don't know specifically. I
Mm.
just know that he is their kind of kid. He's their kind of
Hmm.
player. Um, and just once they got on him, I mean, they got on him hard. And honestly, even though they're Alabama and some of the other schools weren't quite as big as Alabama from a status perspective, I mean, Alabama probably recruited him harder than the other schools as well.
Hmm.
They were, I think, I mean, to answer your question more fully, I think Dylan's the full package. I mean, he's high
Yeah.
academic. He's got even higher football IQ. Um, he's got an incredibly strong arm that can make all the throws, but even more impressive than that, he throws a catchable ball, kind of like the old Joe
Mm-hmm.
Montana thing. Um, he's and he's decidedly a pocket passer, but kind of in the vein of an Andrew Luck. I mean, he's
Mm.
like, he's got wheels, man. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? He's got great pocket awareness. He's got wheels. He's extremely strong. He's our strong on our entire team, and we got a lot of really good players on our team. He is our strongest power clean kid. He's about a
Hmm.
310 power clean as a quarterback.
Yeah.
And so he squats right at 500 pounds. So I mean, the kid's a great overall athlete. He's poised. He holds himself to an extremely high level on the field. He's got incredible work ethic. I mean, you really are getting everything with him, and I think that's what you know. I think that's what um, I think that's what Alabama noticed. So I guess I don't know. I mean, I know they do their
Yeah.
homework, and I know they really wanted him. So
Interesting. What's left for him this fall? What are you like? All right, well, here's my last thing I gotta instill into you, help you whether it's on the field, off the field, just to kind of get you ready, because that's the big boys. Alabama, like you won't be there anymore, coach. Like that's one of those things where it's like you're on your own, and I mean, you'll be competing with Eli Holstein, and you got a big loaded quarterback room, and you're on your own, and you're going into a highly competitive locker room where nothing is going to be easy there. And
right,
Brookwood's just like where y'all are as a program and everything else is just different. Like he's priority number one. It's just going to be a different thing. What are you looking for in that regard for this fall for him?
I think. I mean, I don't think there's any one specific area that he needs to work on way
Mm-hmm.
more than others. He just needs to continue, and he does this. I think he needs to continue to just refine his craft. I think he needs to, he is by nature an introvert,
Hmm.
which there is nothing wrong with that at all. He's not your rah rah go slap everybody on the back kind of leader.
Mm.
He's more of like a get on my level kind of leader. Like I'm gonna work at this level and I'm gonna perform every day at this kind of level. And if you don't get on my level, then then you're gonna be everybody's gonna notice.
Yeah.
And so he's that kind of similar to my. I'm not saying he's Michael Jordan, but if you
Yeah.
watch The Last Dance, that's kind of how Michael Jordan was. Like I'm gonna be at this level, and you better get on my level. He's similar to that, in that he doesn't tolerate foolishness, and he
Mm.
doesn't tolerate guys that don't know what to do. Um, and he doesn't tolerate. Now he's equally hard on himself.
Mm.
So the good thing is he can be kind of a little bit hard on his receivers and some of his offensive guys, but when he makes a mistake, he's the first one to own up to his own mistakes too. Which everybody respects. So I think he's got to continue to come out of his shell a little bit.
Mm.
He did a lot toward that last year, and I think even more so this year. I think he's going to continue to develop as a leader. Um, and I mean, everything else I would mention would be just a finer point of the game that he needs to work on. Sometimes he's too hard on himself. Sometimes
Mm.
he can let a little bit slip, although he's come a million miles in that area. But sometimes he's so committed to being good that he can get hard on himself. And as a quarterback, you got to have a short memory. You got to move on when you make a mistake. And he's done a lot better with that, but he needs to continue to develop that. And you know, just like I said, just keep refining the finer points of his craft. The great thing about Dylan is his humility. If you asked him that question, he'd probably tell you 17 things that he needs to get better at.
Mhm.
And that's one of the reasons he's a special player, because kind of that not satisfied quality.
Well, when you look at the senior year for him and for your team, building off what you guys did last year, a lot of blowout wins. Like, it was really interesting schedule just going through it and watching back a lot of y'all stuff. Obviously, the playoff game was a shootout, and it seemed like there were a lot more shootouts across the board this year. There was a lot of back and forth all across the conference, especially over here in East Tennessee. I've seen that a lot more. But it's
Mm.
interesting to see the disparity come playoff time versus the regular season, where the scoring was down and you have a little bit more blowouts, but it wouldn't just be as high scoring. And you look at the Walton game. I'm curious, like, what are you still thinking about from that game? Was there anything that you wish you could do over at that point? Did you learn something about your team and where y'all are going to be this upcoming year that you're like, all right, now I know kind of where we're at, and this is something that we can improve on, and this is something that we can fix to go deeper in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, to a degree. I mean, to a degree, I don't know. You just um, it's one of those games we just didn't play well. We came out
Mm,
flat and just did. It's hard to imagine doing that with such a quality team that we had. They just came out. Honestly, we just came out and didn't play well. Walton was really hot. We caught them at a.
mm,
They went. 2 weeks before they went to Lowndes and beat them by 30, and
yeah,
I mean, they went to Colquitt and beat them by 30, and I can't remember who they played before us, but I think it was Archer or something, and they beat them by beat them by 30 points. So we caught a hot team. Um, but in terms of but obviously, working on us, I think they way too many explosive plays. So our secondary did not play well
mm,
that night, and so we would have to. And every time we kind of get a little bit of momentum and get something going, they would have an explosive pass play usually, which would get behind our secondary. So we've got to get better back there in those kind of situations. They had a quarterback who just caught fire, and he had a great night that night. But we got to be better back there um, and um, turnovers got us that night too.
mm,
I think we had three big turnovers at critical moments, which one or two in the first half, which kind of gave them an easy touchdown and was allowed them to get a lot
yeah.
of momentum up on us. So we gotta, those are things you always have to prevent as a football team. So, and Dylan will be the first one to admit it was cold as it was really, really cold that night. And Dylan
Mm,
did not play well that night. I'll be honest. He did not play his best game, and he'd be the first one to admit that. So, I think, I don't know if it's acclimatization or just, all good players sometimes have bad nights. And I think,
mm.
whatever we could do in the future to prevent, our quarterback our offense kind of revolves around him. So we need him to not have a bad night in those kind of situations this fall. So.
Interesting. What did you notice though when you were looking back in the film? I mean, even going into that week, was that something where by Thursday you felt pretty good, or was there when you're putting it in and you're like, all right, here's where we're at, we're weak here, like you mentioned the secondary and stuff like that. Was there anything you could do schematically where you were like, okay, maybe we can't do press man against Walton, we can't do this, we can't do that? Was there something that you saw in the film where you're like, all right, this that more times than not, this is how this game will go? But
Yeah, I think there's some things I wouldn't want to say from a personnel standpoint because I don't want
yeah,
to call
we'll talk off
anybody
air.
out on. Yeah, exactly. So there was a little bit of that going on. We did
Yeah.
get in the second quarter. So we had a corner named Michael Haynes, who in a
Mm,
lot of ways was kind of like he was the dog of our defense. In a lot of ways,
mm,
he was the heart and soul, kind of a undersized kid who just played with all heart. And he
yeah.
got hurt in the second quarter, popped his shoulder out, and he was done for the rest of the game. And I'll admit that deflated our defense.
Hmm,
Um, that deflated, and he was responsible for a lot back there. And and so that was a struggle. It was a little bit of a weird, it was Thanksgiving week, so our
mhm,
schedule was off. We practiced in the morning that week when we're normally used to practice in the afternoon after school. But that week, because it was Thanksgiving, we were off. So just, my thing was come in the morning, let's practice in the morning, and everybody get home by noon and spend the rest of your day with your family. And, I don't know if it was, sometimes you can overanalyze these things you know, um, maybe the change in routine a little bit got to them. Maybe they didn't sleep enough. I don't know.
yeah,
There's the old David Shaw clip, where everybody was grilling him about these kind of questions after a bad game, and he was like, I don't know. Sometimes you just play bad. Sometimes I
yeah.
don't have any explanation other than sometimes you just play bad, and we did that night. And so, um, I worked for Ed Dudley at Walton, and he talked about just the atrophy effect. I mean, sometimes you just you peak and you peak, and we were doing that. I mean, we lost to North Forsyth in game 4,
Mhm,
and it woke our team up, and we went on a run there for about 8 games where we were just we were balling,
yeah,
we were playing great, and just like you said, a lot of blowout wins, even over people like Grayson and Parkview, and then
yep.
we get to the playoffs and we're doing the same thing, and then it was just like we get to Walton that night and the bottom fell out. It's like I don't know why. But, I just can't explain that. But sometimes teams just they peak and then have an unexpected atrophy moment, and that was it for us.
Is there one position battle that you're most excited about play out over the next couple weeks in fall camp?
That's a good question. We we're young at wide receiver,
Mhm,
so I've been excited to see who's going to step up at those positions for us. It's kind of gone back and forth, and we don't other than maybe one spot on offense. The rest of it's kind of unsettled, and we'll
mhm,
play a lot of guys. So I'm excited to see who continues to get better over there. And Most of our front seven on defense is pretty settled.
mhm,
But our secondary is also young. We have some young guys back there. So only one returning starter. So I guess our secondary and our wide receivers just to see,
hmm,
how those continue to play out. And so that's probably where it is right now.
interesting. Um, how would like for folks who are there for like week 4 and at Brookwood and they go to every game, the diehard Brookwood Bronco fans, like what do you think that they will first mention to you if you're out and about in Snellville and you get stopped somewhere, coach, and they're like, hey, what's going on with this? This looks different than last year. What do you think they're going to point to first? What do they think they're going to notice that's most different about the way y'all play, either on offense or on defense next year?
On defense this year, I think that's a good question. I think that um, defensively, this is the second year with our new defensive coordinator Chad Nybers. We're going to year 2 with
Mm,
him, and we're more settled. Year 1, everything he was doing. He came from Colquitt
mm,
and was coordinating the defense down there, and came to be our defensive coordinator, and is phenomenal.
yeah.
He's an amazing coach, and it really took about 4 games for what he was doing last year to really catch hold because he was
Mm,
new. We didn't get him till just prior to spring practice, and like everything else, it takes a little time to get going.
yeah.
So I'm hoping that the learning curve for what he's done. Hopefully we come out of the blocks faster on offense. On defense, and we're playing at that high level of defense that we were playing at a year ago. Especially the last kind of 2/3 of our season, we were playing at a very high level. One of the reasons we had the blowouts we had is because we were stopping people, and our offense has always been prolific, but we were really, we were doing a really good job of stopping people and getting the ball back to our offense quick and playing on a lot of short fields and that kind of thing. So I'm hoping our defense kind of is the kind of, we start with that momentum, and offensively, people are still going to talk about Dylan, of course, because he's a special player. So I don't really think much will change on the offensive side of the ball. We've got more unproven production players. We got Dylan, but our two primary production guys was Alex Diggs, who was our running back, who was first team All-State, and Stone Bonner was our tight end, who was also All-State, and Stone's going to Georgia Tech, and Alex going to Kennesaw. Those are our two guys, and they both graduated. So we got to, we have a few other guys that had some spots and some roles last year, but we got to. But some of those guys are really going to have to step up. So some of that's unproven. So some of the talk may be surrounding, who's stepping up for us. That's all. That's the fun part.
Did you feel like you had the right balance between run pass last year? If you had to guess like what your percentages were on either end, that it was about where you want your team to be each year?
Yeah, heck yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I think we were in the top 5 statistically in the state offensively, and that's all classifications.
Yeah.
We moved the ball well all year. So, I really don't care if we run or pass or what our balance is. If we're moving the ball and we're scoring, then that's what we should be doing. And our offense, we are by and large an RPO offense. So,
right.
So we kind of have the build-ins where we're trying to make you wrong. If you're going to overplay the pass, we're gonna run the ball. If we're going to overplay the run, we're going to throw the ball. And Dylan being back there and so cerebral and make such good decisions that he'll, if the play call doesn't make him wrong, then Dylan will. So.
Do you give him a lot of freedom at the line?
Yeah, we do. And not with the play call, but, with definitely with the, I think RPOs, the way it's kind of built in, it's kind of like an either or, it's kind of like an either or at the line. And if he, and he's calling a lot of protections now for us. So we're giving him a lot of freedom to do that. And, he's identifying where the RPO is going much sooner. And if you got a quarterback like Dylan, you can call an RPO and trust him to make the right decision. Whereas if you have a young or unexperienced quarterback, you're not going to feel the freedom to call the RPO. You're going to say, hey, you're going to predetermine that call. So, yeah, he's got a lot of freedom. Do
you think he excels in that?
As much as we've given anybody.
Well, do you think he excels in like one of the interesting things, and so many, like just watching different teams, like I was watching Colquitt and Valdosta from a few weeks back from this past year, and watching kind of some of their RPO stuff, and it's really interesting with the smaller quarterbacks, and it makes it a little bit more complicated if they're small and fast, and what they're able to do. Because I'm curious from your perspective, was it pretty easy for him to be able to hide that on RPOs where he's going over like, hey, you've got to hide, you've got to make sure that these defenses cannot 100%, like the way you're turning your frame, the way you are shielding the ball, for them to really have to think whether or not you're keeping it or it's going to the running back? Because that's something that was tough. Is it tough to teach in general? And also, was Dylan just kind of a natural being able to shield and throw defenses off, whether or not he had it or was handing it off?
Yeah, I think, absolutely. He's been pretty much a natural, like everything else. He's come on the more he gets comfortable with it. But he's, he understands. He's his dad was a quarterback, and and he grew up playing the position from the word go. So he had a preternatural understanding of deceiving the defense.
Yeah.
You've got to deceive the defense with your eyes. You got to deceive the defense with your shoulders sometimes, and the longer our offense has the longer kind of Wake Forest fakes built into it. So so we there's that those longer fakes cause the defense to draw in a little bit even further, so you have the chance to kind of get a little bit more of a look at what the defense is doing. So yeah, he's definitely a natural, absolutely.
What would you guess? I'm curious if you're going to answer this. What do you think you're going to be in most this fall? What set? Which personnel? Think you're going to be in 11 personnel the most? What do you think you're going to be in the most?
Yeah, we're an 11 personnel offense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the kind of tight end we play with, we show a lot of things,
Hmm.
and we've got. So, I mean, we can, it'll look like a 10 personnel set, but we're really in 11 because
Hmm.
we try to keep kind of like Stone last year. He was a tight end, so we were in 11 personnel, but he could do everything that any other receiver we had could. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what makes it hard for the defense is when you show a personnel group and they are accustomed to stopping a stopping a certain type of play out of 11 personnel for most teams, and then you're showing 11 personnel and you're spreading the ball out, throwing the ball over the place, or but we will try to be. I think 11 personnel is where we live. We don't, but I think that one thing we got pretty good at last year was being able to get 12 and bring in some heavy bodies. We've got Miles Parker's our
Mm-hmm.
Division I defensive lineman who's literally squats 700 pounds, and he's athletic and physical, and so we'll bring him over and play some tight end, and
Mm-hmm.
along with we'll bring in like an extra offensive lineman or another athletic defensive lineman and put him at tight ends, and and we'll make the defense defend all those gaps when they're used to having to they're used to have. That's what we kind of did against Grayson last year was we had a lot of success making them play all those gaps in a two tight end set when they're used to sitting back and playing RPOs and sitting back on what Dylan was doing, and all of a sudden we're getting in heavy sets and running the ball right at them, and so that's what offense is all about these days. It's not, you can't really say it's offenses have the advantage by you know by doing a specific thing like tempo, like
Mm-hmm.
we're going to be Gus Malzahn, we're going to be fast, everything we do is
Mm-hmm.
going to be fast. you know Defenses have adjusted to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They know how to play fast defense. What the best offenses are doing now, it's like a good pitcher in the major leagues. You got to have a good fastball, you got to have a good curveball, you got a good changeup and a slider, and you got to be able to know when the best time to throw them. And the same thing, as an offense, you got to mix it up. You got to be able to, you know, you got to have tempo. You also got to have good 4 minute pace. You got to be able to run the ball. You got to throw RPOs. You got to be able to throw the ball in those third and long situations, and you got to have some unorthodox sets at times. You got to be physical in short yardage. I mean, you got to be able to do all those things well. And if you can do all those things well, you can be good on offense. But you got to be able to mix it up on a defense so you're not so you're never too predictable.
Interesting. When you look at this offseason and everything else, what have you worked on the most? What have you like just in this offseason been like, all right, I need to be better at this as a head coach going into next year? Has there been anything you've been
Oh
working on
gosh.
personally?
um, Man, that's a good question, Chase. You know, um, I think, um, hmm, just continuing to, um, just I mean, I'm always just trying to be the best servant leader I can,
Mm,
and just trying to, um, I think that, um, I've got some really, really good coaches. We got some really good coaches on our staff. So finding that right balance between delegation without being laissez-faire, you know what I mean? For
yeah.
me, is always, you want to delegate and support and have knowledge and understand without being overbearing or micromanaging at the same time. And so, and never be, but you don't want to be hands off either, where you're just kind of sitting
Mm.
back, not doing much. Trying to work toward that, and also just I think that um, just on a continual understanding personally, I get even kind of uncomfortable talking about myself and these kind of things, but like just a continual understanding that it's about the players. It's not about
Mm.
me. It's not about not about me. It's not about the coaches or schemes. It's about the players. It's about truly loving them, truly serving them, and just having those kind of authentic relationships with them that it doesn't, you can't boil it down to a buzzword. You can't put it on a t-shirt. You can't tweet about it. It's just got to be real, and just on a continual quest to be that kind of leader where, operate in humility and, you know, provide love and accountability in equal measure and have authentic relationships with our players and try to be the best leader I can. And, that's kind of what I'm trying to get a little better at. And, one of the things that I've gotten the best at the last couple of years is kind of a personal thing, but just, because it's not about me, is caring less about what people say. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Just like,
Yeah.
you know, I have really good relationships with my parents because I don't really take much personally. You know what I
Mm.
mean? They know they can approach me because, I don't really take much personally. I mean, I'm all about, hey, if you got a good idea and I haven't thought of it yet, and I don't care who you are, if you're a parent, if you're a player, you're a coach, you're a member of the community, hey, let's, I'm pretty approachable. Let's talk about it. Let's think about it.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, there's always proper boundaries, as you know, but I'm just, I'm just not one of these people that takes myself too seriously or gets my feelings hurt very easily. I don't really have much of an ego, so it's just like, hey, it's all hands on deck. Everybody do the best you can. Everybody owns this, and let's go do the best we can.
Yeah. But don't approach Coach if he's at Snellville Oaks 14 or whatever and going to see Elvis. Don't approach him with some ideas on what you want to do personnel wise. Don't do that. He's not saying that. There's a limit to his
Right.
approachability.
Yeah,
Did you
that's
get to?
right.
Yeah. Did you go to the movies at all this summer? Have you seen anything? Have you been out?
I've been out. I saw Top Gun and I saw
Okay.
Minions. And
Minions.
there were, yeah, I took my kids to see
Yeah.
Minions,
How
and
was
we saw
that?
that. It was funny. I mean,
Okay.
I haven't really seen much Minions, but it was like, hey, I want to take my kids to the movie. What do y'all want to go see?
Yeah.
Minions was the choice. So,
The black phone
it's a
was
lot.
off the table. Ethan Hawke's
That's
The Black Phone
right.
didn't make the cut for the children.
No,
Yeah,
did
it's probably
not.
not.
And
No.
but man, Top Gun. I mean, I'd heard it was good, but I had no idea how good it was. Man.
You think it was
It
better than
was
the original?
incredible. I do. I
Okay.
mean, I went back and watched the original. I
Mm.
mean, you got everything is context, right? I mean,
Mm.
what a movie was like 30 years ago is going to be different than how it is now. What people think is good 35 years ago is different than how it is now. But yeah, I went back and watched the original before I went and watched the new one. I'm like, man, the old one, like you thought it was so good, and it was really like hokey, and
Oh
there was
man.
really some, I kind of thought it was like, compared to what
Yeah.
you see now, like it was like a little bit cheesy and hokey,
Uh,
and and then you go to this one, you're like, man, it was just really really well done.
I
So
like it. I like it. Have you been reading at all? Fishing? What else have you been doing?
I read all the time. I'm
Okay.
I'm
What are
a
you reading right
huge
now?
reader. I I am reading, man. I'm reading a lot of stuff. I just finished reading a book called The Happiness Project by Gretchen Rubin. Hold on, let me go to
I've
my
heard about that one.
books
Yeah.
app and tell you. Hold on,
Was that
it's really
good?
good. It was excellent. It was
Okay.
excellent. So let me see here, Chase. Um I Johnny Cash biography.
Okay.
Um I read a book about Jesus called Gentle and Lowly. I read Row the Boat, which is John Gordon and PJ Fleck.
Mm.
I've kind of off and on reading an Abraham Lincoln biography called Abe. Um,
Okay.
and right now, um, I am about halfway into the first book of the Chronicles of Narnia series. So I'm reading
Oh, have you ever done it
The
before?
Magician's Nephew. No, and I've always kind of resolved myself to do that. So I'm halfway through that, and so
There you
um,
go.
so I've read there's one of my favorite reads of the past year. Uh, there's a coach he was at Pacific Western University. His name was Frosty Westering,
Okay.
and he's in the top 10 in wins of all time. And
Football.
he was, yeah, he's in the top 10 in wins all time. He may even be a little higher than that. I think he may be in the top 7 or 8. And he was always just at NAIA, Pacific Western, up in northern Washington State.
Mm.
And I'm sorry. So and he's written a few books, but his books, it's called The Big Time is Where You Are. The big time is not a place. It's a state of your heart. And so it's not a destination. It's a state of your heart. And but he has actually passed away. His son was the coach for 15 years before he was the coach. And so I think he finished coaching there around the, early to mid 90s. But in terms of a lot of the positive culture, kind of things, and putting your value and emphasis in the day-to-day and not the destination. And a lot of that stuff that Dabo and Pete Carroll and those guys have sort of popularized, like he was doing that way before those guys. And it's just really cool to go back and read kind of how he was so successful, but never, had great relationships with his players, never used bad language, always had was always upbeat, and just just is so antithetical to what we used to think. Now we kind of know that can be done because we've seen Dabo do it, we've seen Pete do it, and a lot of other guys have followed suit. But I've really enjoyed reading about him.
I like it. Coach, what can the good folks in back home in Atlanta, how do they support the program this summer, this fall? What would you like to plug as we wrap up here today?
So we'd love to have them at our games, because of COVID 2 years ago. I think our attendance was a little bit down, but we'd love to see you support our program. We'd love to, our website's brookwoodfootball.com if you want to get on. And, we have probably the best social media photographer / content creator that I would think in high school football anywhere. His name's Chad Price. And if you go check out our Instagram, it's Bronco_FT ball. And the videos he creates and the content he creates is just second to none for high school football.
Is he a student there?
He's actually a former player. He played for me when I was an assistant at Brookwood. He went on he was actually an All-American at West Georgia. And he finished up, and he just has a passion for it, and comes to most of our practices, most of our games, and he throws stuff together like unbelievable. That's like, high level Division I quality videos. So I'd encourage all of our listeners out there to, get on Instagram, Bronco_FT ball. That's the same handle we have for Twitter as well. So get on there and see some of the good stuff we got going and keep up with what we're doing. So,
and then also send him a few miles down the road to Parkview and fill in the gaps a little bit there. There you go. Just spread the word.
No, he's ours. Parkview can go find their own. We're good.
Ooh, I tried, Coach Godfrey. You heard
nobody wants to open up their Instagram account and see a bunch of orange anyway. So I think that's pretty safe to say. So.
Oh my goodness! All right, right at the end, Coach. Really twisting the knife here, right at the end here. Coach Jones. Well, I'm looking at the helmet you sent me, and I got the Battle on Five Forks. People ask me about it all the time. I'm like, yeah, it's the Battle of Five Forks wherever I go. So it's right here in East Tennessee. And when we fiance and I get our next house, I can actually build out the office the way I want it to, where it'll be right there in the background and all that. Got Air Force and all that, but yeah, it's very exciting. So I appreciate that. It's very cool.
Just make sure to put the Brookwood helmet like in front of the park.
No, that's not happening. So you got to do the side by side. It's got to be even. I'm even being nice by making it even, and with the GHSA football right there in the middle.
I gotcha. Well, I know you're biased. I can't do anything about that.
I am biased. I won't lie about it. I think these are fair interviews, Coach. I don't come at it from a very strong Parkview pull. I think it's a fair conversation.
No, you're a great interviewer. Just until we got to the end here, and then and then it's then you gotta throw your 2 cents in. No, I'm just kidding. No,
there you go.
No, actually, Coach Godfrey is one of my absolute favorites. We've got a great relationship, and if the rivalry between Brookwood and Parkview is good, then that makes all of Georgia high school football better. So, there's definitely a mutual respect there, even though we like to pretend like we don't like each other. We really
Exactly.
I actually had Brett Milliken over at Brookwood the other day.
Oh, did you? Did you have to like? How
Yeah.
did that work? Did he just get lost?
So
Did you just tell him you were going to be like? How did that happen?
I don't know if it was his first choice of an afternoon
Yeah.
activity, but he actually married a Brookwood girl. So, and they live
Oh.
in Texas. They live in Texas now, and they were in town seeing old friends and people, and so they stopped by Parkview for a little while
Mm,
for Brett, and they stopped by Brookwood for a little while for Missy, his wife. But
mm.
I've got along, and I've known Brett forever, and we got to hang out and catch up, so it was cool. So
There you go.
absolutely.
There you
So
go. Well, just stay away from Frank Gore, from Buster Faulkner, Sean Dawkins. Like, I just hey,
yeah.
Brett's fine, but
Okay.
let's be careful here. Let's not do too much
Okay.
crossover. We got to make it seem like there is some
Okay.
sort of strong rivalry still and
Right,
bad
there
blood.
is absolutely there is bad blood, but
Uh,
it's the best kind of bad blood, if that
there
makes
you
sense.
go.
So,
Coach Jones, thank you as always, and we'll have to check back in again soon.
all right, thanks, Chase. Appreciate you, man.